Welcome. I am excited to bring you Anthony Smith today to talk about how EMFs affect your sleep and how you can be empowered to create an EMF mitigated sleep sanctuary. Anthony Smith is the COO of liveemfsafe.com. He has a background in professional photography, website design, product development, sales and marketing, ministry, and as an EMF consultant. Anthony attended Ealing College in London and studied management, accounting, law, planning and environmental design, catering, health, and nutrition. In 2008, he moved to Oregon. During this time, he also worked as a photographer, website designer, created the gift system and red light therapy devices, which are sold online. And for the past 3 years, Anthony has been an independent EMF consultant. He started liveemfsafe.com together with the inventor of the EMF safe switch, Dan Evison, at the end of 2020. Welcome, Anthony. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Susie. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you reached out to me a few weeks ago, and I'm so happy that you did because I have been doing something in a really janky way, which is shutting off my breakers at night to mitigate the EMFs in my bedroom. And I heard that I've heard from other people, other colleagues, that there is such a thing as a safe switch, but I didn't know how to install it. I didn't know anything. And so we had a wonderful long conversation by phone when we got together, and you inspired me to share this information with my audience. So that's why we're here today. And I'm really excited because I have found you to be an absolute wealth of information about EMFs. And you've also really helped me to understand some of the things that were mysteries to me, and I think are widely included misinformation in the EMF world. And so we're also going to bust some of those falsities in our conversation today, which I'm so excited about also.
Wonderful.
Okay, so let's jump right in. What are the different kinds of EMFs? And why is shutting off the electricity in the walls at night in the bedroom the most impactful and important thing a person can do for their health?
Okay, you got a big chunk there.
I know. So maybe first just describe what are the different kinds of EMFs?
Yes, certainly. So EMF stands for electromagnetic fields. And electromagnetic fields, a lot of people think is radio frequency, which radio frequency is one of the three main types of EMF. Radio frequency is your signal your cell phone puts out, your Wi-Fi, your microwave oven, the local TV and radio station, the police and your local taxi talking to each other. Those are all radio frequencies. And certain types of radio frequency are of great concern because they can negatively impact our health. The other type of EMF that a lot of people are familiar with is magnetic fields. And actually, magnetic fields can be the most negatively impacting on our health. Magnetic fields do come from magnets. Anytime you've got a spinning magnet, a motor, a hairdryer, a fan in your bedroom, you've got magnetic fields. But you can also get magnetic fields from wiring errors in your home. If you've got a shared neutral, without getting into the science of it, that can create a magnetic field. Fortunately, the nice thing about magnetic fields is they drop off very, very quickly. You can have a strong magnetic field right up against something, but you can move 1 or 2 feet away and the magnetic field has dissipated. The third type of EMF, and actually the most important, because it's probably, as far as quantity goes, more people are exposed to EMF in the form of electric fields. Every wire in your house, every device plugged into your house is putting out an electric field 6 to 8 feet into the room in all directions. So when you're lying in bed, your head is 12 inches from the wall, and you've got at least one wire running through that wall for the plugs on either side of your bed. You might have 4, 5, or 6 wires running through that wall going somewhere else. It just depends how your house is wired, which is why just turning off the circuits in your bedroom That's probably the most important circuit to turn off. But if there's 6 other circuits running through the walls, the floors, the ceilings that you don't know are there, they're still negatively impacting you, which is why it's so important that you get some feedback and measure, which we're going to be talking about here soon. A lot of people talk about dirty electricity. Dirty electricity is probably, although it's got a lot of attention in the EMF world, it's probably the smallest amount, maybe 1-2% of the electric field. And you can filter out dirty electricity in the home. It's really nothing more than harmonic artifacts of the 60 hertz running through the wires. And you can filter out the dirty electricity, but you're leaving the 60 hertz in place. And it's actually the 60 hertz electric field that is doing far more harm and damage than probably all the others put together, potentially. But if you turn off the electric circuit, you've killed any dirty electricity that's on that circuit. You've also killed any magnetic field on that circuit. You've killed any radio frequency that might be on that circuit from anything plugged in, smart, as we say, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. So by turning off the circuit, it is the most efficient, effective, safest way to mitigate EMF, especially in your bedroom at night when you're, and the bedroom at night is so important because that's when our body is trying to heal and detox. And it's said that we are 10 times more sensitive to EMF at night than we are during the day because of what the body's trying to do.
Got it. Okay, so there's magnetic EMFs. There's what the one in the wall is called what? It's AC
Okay.
or
So you got EMF.
uh-huh.
E is electric, M is magnetic, and then F stands for fields. But included in electromagnetic fields is radio frequency, which is what comes out of our cell phones and the Wi-Fi.
Okay. So the what is the one that's in the wall called? What, like, if you just talk about that, is there a specific
the electric field, which is coming from the wires. The electric field is coming from the wires in your wall. Yeah.
Okay, so electric, magnetic, and radio are the three types, and then dirty is kind of like a subset of
It's actually a subset.
electric.
It's very, very good, very good. It's actually a subset of, it can be of all three, but primarily electric fields.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then to answer the question about shutting off the electricity in the walls in the bedroom at night, you're saying that it's said that we are 10 times more susceptible to any exposure at night. So what I heard you say when we spoke on the phone, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that while it's good to mitigate it at all times of the day, when you mitigate it at night, you do enough because of the fact that it's 10 times more impactful on your body. You generally do enough to mitigate your overall exposure if you can just get it while you're sleeping at night, and then you don't have to be so concerned about every single thing that you're being exposed to during the daytime when you actually need to function in it.
Right. Yeah. Electromagnetic fields are cumulative, which means all the different types add up together, and they add up in quantity as far as the effect on your body. You can get away with a little bit, but the more you have, if you have a big EMF impact, it can seriously negatively affect you. But EMF also adds up over time. And because we are 10 times more sensitive at night, the most efficient and effective way to deal with the EMFs in our home, which is probably 70, 80, 90% these days of the EMF that people are exposed to, is actually inside their home. Now, the great thing about that is you can control the EMF in your home. You can't control the EMF coming from your neighbor's house or the cell phone tower down the road, but you can control the EMF in your home. And the reason it's so important at night is because our pineal gland in the middle of our head, which is the third eye, is sensitive to electromagnetic fields. It's how it knows that the sun has set. It's not just light rays, light frequency. It's the EMF coming from the sun. So that when the sun sets, there's no more EMF, and the pineal gland knows, because the sun has set, because there's no more EMF, it can release the melatonin, which is essential for a good quality sleep. But because of all the man-made EMF coming from the wires in our walls, the cell phone next to your bed, the Wi-Fi in the other room, all of those man-made EMFs are confusing the pineal gland. it still thinks it's daytime. So it's not that you don't have melatonin in your body. It's not that you can't get to sleep, but the quality of sleep is seriously impacted by the melatonin. Dr. Paul did I think it's from Washington University, did a phenomenal work on the melatonin hypothesis and the effects of EMF, specifically on the body's ability to release melatonin.
I I learned this from you, and I'm not sure that I had heard it before, but it makes me so excited because if anybody has been following me or listening to me for a while, I talk about the importance of light and how the impact of light affects the body's ability to sleep and produce melatonin and all these things. But I didn't connect the dots between the fact that the sun is also emitting EMFs, and that in the olden days that, you know, when the sun went down. So are you saying, because I want to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly, when the sun goes down and it's no longer, you know, shining on us, the light from it, we are no longer receiving EMF exposure from the sun? Is that accurate, or does it just go down considerably?
Okay, so yes, during the day, we are exposed to a massive amount of EMFs all the time, natural EMFs occurring in nature, and the single largest source of EMF is the sun. Without it, we would die. So some EMFs are very healthy and beneficial. When the sun sets, there is no more EMF coming from our natural environment. There might be a tiny amount of background EMFs, but our bodies are designed to handle and withstand and utilize the EMFs coming to us. And light is a form of EMF. It's on the electromagnetic frequency. But when the sun sets, there is no more natural EMF in our environment anymore. But what we have done with our electrical circuits, with radio frequency, with cell phone towers, we have surrounded ourselves with non-native or man-made EMF. So the non-native and man-made EMF is affecting our pineal gland just like it does during the day. During the day, it knows it's daytime, it produces serotonin, so that we can run away from saber-toothed tigers and keep ourselves safe. But at night, it converts the serotonin and it releases melatonin so that our bodies can heal and detox, and our immune system can fix everything that we broke during the day so we can get up in the morning and start all over again. But man-made EMFs confuse the natural body system, and so there is a negative effect to man-made EMFs on the body. The primary negative effect is the melatonin effect. So we're not getting the full dose of melatonin that we need to get that deep dive sleep.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so this is a perfect segue, and I could geek out and ask you more on that, but I think we'll move on. This is a perfect segue into the next question, which you also brought up when we spoke, which is, what is the difference between the natural resting frequency of the brain while we sleep and the average unmediated home as it relates to brain waves and the Schumann resonance and all of that?
The different stages of sleep. I mean, during the day, we're in gamma. Gamma, when you're focused, concentrating, working hard, which is 30 to 100 hertz. A hertz is the number of cycles per second. Awake normal is beta. You've heard of people talk about these things in relationship to brain waves, 14 to 30 hertz cycles per second. Resting, meditating, the state that you're in when you're just kind of dozing and you're just dropping off to sleep is called alpha. And alpha waves are 9 to 13 hertz. This is the frequency or the vibration that our brain is operating at, that when you're hooked up to those machines, these are actually the frequencies that they're measuring that are going on inside our head. Now, as you fall asleep, you move from alpha and you drop into theta, which is 5 to 8 hertz. Delta, which is the deep dive sleep, which is where healing takes place, is 1 to 4 hertz. Now, the natural frequency of the planet of Mother Earth is called the Schumann resonance, because Dr. Schumann discovered it. And that's 7.83 hertz. It actually varies. It can go up to 12. It's based upon the number of lightning strikes at any given time all around the Earth. So just like you blow in a bottle and you get a frequency, you get a small bottle, it's a higher frequency. You get a big bottle, you get a lower frequency. The Earth has a frequency, and that's 7.8 hertz, give or take. So at night, for our body to be able to reset, reduce stress, we have to reach, your brain is looking for Schumann. Your brain is looking for that reset frequency, which is right, 7, 8, 9 hertz. And that allows the brain to do the reset. You get restorative sleep. And if you can't find 7 hertz, you're not going to be able to drop down into 4 hertz. Now, where EMF comes in, this is electromagnetic frequencies operating at a myriad of frequencies. But the electricity in our wall is 60 hertz. So that electrical circuit is going on and off 60 times a second. So 60 times a second is up in gamma. We're trying to get out of gamma through beta, through alpha to theta and delta to get a good night's sleep. When you're in theta and delta, you're asleep. When you're in alpha, you're kind of dozing. But if you doze all night, I mean, people have experienced this. You don't really get to sleep. You think you're awake. You're probably going into light sleep. You wake up exhausted. It's horrible unless you get that deep dive sleep. So the 60 hertz is actually confusing your brain. So not only is it the melatonin effect, but it's the actual 60 hertz itself. It's not only the electric field, it's specifically the 60 hertz that's interfering with your brain being able to get down into the deep dive sleep that you need to heal and restore. And by turning off that circuit, then it's like whispering to somebody at a rock concert. There's too much background noise. They can't hear you. You turn off the band stops playing, and you can whisper to each other and hear. Schumann resonance is like a whisper, and the 60 hertz is like a rock concert.
Yeah, so I'm hearing that it's not only just the fact that you have electricity in the walls, it's also the frequency at which that electricity is humming in comparison to where your brain needs to be in order to get into deep sleep.
Yeah, we've got brain waves, which is equivalent to electricity, but the different frequencies of those brain waves determine how conscious we are, how focused we are. And as we slip into, for those of you that meditate, you're still conscious, but your body, your brain is very relaxed, and it's like in that twilight zone. But when you go into a sleep, you have to get down into those lower frequencies. And that's all like electricity, can be at different frequencies. Our brain operates at different frequencies to get different results. Being able to get down into those, for your brain to be able to relax and go through those different levels of sleep and get down into the 7 hertz, 4 hertz range is vital for that. That's what good sleep is, being your brain dropping into those lower frequencies.
Right, but you've got an external stimulus that's saying it's time to be awake. It's time to be awake all night long, and you wonder why you can't sleep
it's
well.
like, and you mentioned light, because during the day, at midday, the sun is basically blue light. It's at 5,000, 6,000. That's how nanometer. That's how they measure it. The color temperature of the light. It's very blue. Well, at night, when the sun sets, you've got those beautiful red, orange sunsets. That's all infrared. So that's another signal to the brain that it's the sun is set. We've got the optical input, and we've got the electromagnetic input going on at the same time. So the color temperature of the light that we're looking at, if you've got LED lights, they're blue light. They're mimicking daylight. So again, you're confusing your brain through the optic nerve, telling your brain it's still daytime because the frequency of light that you're looking at is midday blue, which is why having incandescent bulbs, or looking at a candle, or when you go camping and you light a fire and you sit by the fire, and all those infrared frequencies are telling your brain, okay, The big ball's gone bye-bye. There's no more blue light. It's all orange, red light, infrared. And that's another signal to the brain to be able to shut down. And that's why when you go camping, you get such a good night's sleep. There's no EMF, and you've stared at a fire for 1 or 2 hours telling stories.
You brought up a point a moment ago that I wanted to highlight that we didn't fully get into. And we were talking about how you mentioned how EMF exposure is cumulative, both in terms of frequency and time. And I hear this so frequently where people say, oh, but I've been sleeping in this type of an environment my whole life. Like, why does it matter now? It doesn't seem like it made a difference then. And my understanding is that, pardon me, there's a tipping point in terms of when it starts to affect our bodies in a way that where now we notice it, we're sensitive to it. And in my work as a functional medicine practitioner, I see this all the time where people, do things, whether it's, living a certain way, having a certain lifestyle, or eating a certain food, or various things that seemingly are harmless to them, but then their bodies do the very best that they possibly can to handle it for as long as they possibly can. But they finally get to a point where they can't anymore. And the same is true with EMFs. And so could you just say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, because people may not be familiar with EMFs, let's use an analogy that they are familiar with, and that would be microbes and our food. We've never seen a microbe. You can't see them, you can't smell them. They're there, but we've been told by the experts that they're there. If you've ever looked under a microscope, you've seen them, you've seen photographs of them. So because of microbes, we wash our hands, we wash down the counters, we cook our food, because we're trying to reduce the amount of microbes, bacteria in the food down to a certain level. We certainly don't live in a sterile environment. And at a lower level, our bodies are quite capable of handling them and dealing with them. That's why we have an immune system. But if you get a sudden big dose, like you don't cook the food properly, you don't wash your hands, you maybe cook some chicken and you didn't sterilize the surface afterwards, and you come back 2 days later, there's all kinds of things on there, and you get food poisoning. EMFs are the same way. You can be if they stay below a certain level, our bodies are fearfully and wonderfully made. We're able to withstand an amazing amount of abuse. But say one day you get a big hit of EMF, or it just a little bit over year after year after year, day after day. Nobody died of smoking a cigarette. Nobody got lung cancer from a cigarette. But 20 a day for 20 years. So a little bit of EMF every day, your body can handle, but we're not exposed to a little bit every day. My kids are probably exposed to 10 to 100 times more EMF on a daily basis than I was. I was exposed to 10 to 100 times more EMF than my parents were, and certainly my grandparents. So this is all accumulating in our environment. And there's so much EMF right now, and we've added cell phone towers. We have 10 times more, 100 times more devices plugged into our homes than our parents and grandparents did. All of this is adding up and having an effect. And if you reach that tipping point, just like with bacteria in your system, just like a mold in your house, there's always mold around us. But if you get a big dose of mold, it pushes you over the edge. You're now hypersensitive to mold, and even the tiniest amount can set you off. So that's another good example.
Got it. Okay. So we already, I think, answered this, but I'm just going to ask you again really quickly. When you say creating an EMF mitigated sleep sanctuary, what does that mean?
What that means is, and the only way you know that you've done this, you're going to turn off the circuits. So there's wires running through the wall, through the floor, through the ceiling in your bedroom. We have a body voltage kit, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. The body voltage kit allows you to measure the electric field. So you lie on your bed, you measure the amount of EMF that you're exposed to. Then you start turning off the breakers, and you identify which circuits in your home are affecting you. Well, obviously the wire in your room is affecting you, but there could be a wire running through the wall that's for the room next door. There could be a wire running through the wall that's going to the bathroom on the other side. There could be 4 or 5 wires running to other bedrooms and other parts of the house that are all there, that are all putting out an electromagnetic field. So we find those circuits, we find those electromagnetic fields, and then by turning them off at night, you're now sleeping in an EMF mitigated environment. So your brain goes, finally, after 20 years, the sunset, release the melatonin. and literally the first night people do this, they call us the next day and go, oh my God, I cannot tell you. My husband didn't snore for the first time in 20 years. He slept through the night. I had my first dream in years. I dreamt in color for the first time that I can remember. I didn't have a migraine for the first time in 10 years. We get all of these after one night. Now, I'm not telling you it's going to happen after one night, but if you turn off the circuits in your bedroom, within a week, most people notice some improvement. When they get a body voltage kit and they measure and they find there's 2 or 3 more circuits that they didn't know about, and they turn off those circuits, they get an even greater improvement. And we make a device, the EMF safe switch is a device that you put next to your breaker box. You run those circuits through our switch, and you have a remote control button like you do to open your car door by your bed. You're ready to go to sleep. You push the button, it kills all the circuits. You're now sleeping in an EMF mitigated environment, just like going out camping in the redwoods, or when you go camping, there's no EMF, and you sleep like a baby, and you wake up refreshed. You can recreate that environment in your bedroom by turning off those circuits. You push a button, they go off. You push a button in the morning, the lights come back on, life goes on. We're not Luddites. We believe in technology. We just believe that it should work for us, and it shouldn't be working against us, especially when it comes to our health. And this is how you can maintain control. And yeah, you'll be surprised how this can impact your sleeping, and having good quality sleep is essential for good quality health.
So you sent me a body voltage meter, and I have gone through my room and my house and measured everything, and it's been really, really fascinating. So as I said, I do shut off my breakers to my bedroom and my son's bedroom, and actually my office every night, because they're kind of all down one hallway.
Sure.
And I was pleased to find out that when I did measure in my bedroom with the breaker off, it's at about 200 point, like
Okay.
0.2, maybe like 0.18. So pretty close. It should be under 100. Is that correct?
Ideally, yes. The Building Biology Institute, which is a group, they're now in America, but it was originally in Germany. This was German engineers, very, very efficient. They recommend using the body voltage method, a body voltage reading. They actually like you to be below 10. That's the lowest reading. It's considered safe, but below 100 millivolts. Most people's bedrooms before they mitigate are 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. I've been in 2 homes recently that they were over 6,000 millivolts. And the Building Biology Institute recommends ideally, below 100 millivolts, because anything above that has been associated with various medical conditions. So yeah, getting below 100. Well, magnetic fields, which you can also get from those wires. When you turn off the electric, that circuit, you're turning off not only the electric field from the electricity, you're turning off any magnetic field. There is a direct correlation between magnetic fields and leukemia. And there's many studies that have linked EMF exposure to, migraines,
Insomnia.
Insomnia, poor sleep, which you could argue, well, it's not the EMFs causing those medical conditions. It's the poor sleep causing those medical conditions. But cancer and you name it. There's all kinds of tinnitus, all kinds of things that have been directly related to the level of EMF that people are exposed to.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys, just because you're like, what is she talking about? This thing that he sent me. So it looks like, it was left on. It looks like that, which with my blur on it, you can't really see, but so you hold this and you'll see us use, and we're gonna record how we do it in a little bit so you can see me actually doing it in my bedroom. But you hold this and then it gives you this reading on here. And you plug this into the ground. So when I did that, I was, as I said, I was pleased to find that in my bedroom and in my son's bedroom, I'm almost there. But my fiance, his space, he's a geek and he has, the router is up, the modem is up there, like because I don't want any of that near where I sleep, because we don't sleep in the same bed because I'm a really light sleeper and he wiggles in his sleep and wakes me up. So his space up there has all the toys and all the electronics. And when I went up there and measured it, it was off the charts. In some areas of the room, it was like 6,000. And yeah. And I don't even like going up there. Like, I don't even like standing in his space because I'm sensitive to it and I can feel it. But even before this, before I met you and before we started talking, I was telling him, you need to shut off your stuff at night. It's not good for you. And he wouldn't listen to me at all. And he was like, whatever, like I need to have my computer running. And then when I showed this to him, he got so into it. And we ended up shutting off all the different breakers in the house and trying different things. And I think that, and I'm gonna use a generalization, and please forgive me, but I think that some people, and I think that in general, it might be men, they really do. I know, I'm sorry. If there's a man out there or a woman out there who's offended by that, I am so sorry. It's just a generalization. It doesn't mean it's applicable across the board, but I think that men in general like to have data to inform them. So if you are in
You are so correct. You are so correct.
Whereas for me, it was just intuitive, and it was like, I can feel it and I don't want it, and I don't even need anything to tell me that. For him, it made all the difference in the world to see the numbers on the meter and then to have the ability to play around with it and do the testing. So I will say that if you're intuitive like me, but you're in a relationship with someone who will not listen to you, getting this meter might really help you with the battle in the family.
Empirical data.
Yes.
When you can, yeah, and that's the thing. So the meter is the microscope. So, and the pen, which you haven't talked about, but we will. So these instruments are sensitive to. You have to have a different meter for a magnetic field, a different meter for radio frequency, and a different meter for electric fields, unless you buy a tri-field. And there are meters that you can get that measure all three. But the sensitivity that we need to have to create a mitigated sleep sanctuary really does require the body voltage method. May I ask what your bedroom reading was before you turned off the breakers?
It wasn't that bad, actually. I think it was, and we'll test it again, but I think it was like maybe 300 or 400. It didn't go up to, yeah, it wasn't very high, which surprised me.
Right. So most bedrooms, that I've measured, very rarely do I see anything below 2,000 millivolts.
But
Normally it's three.
I don't have anything in there. Like, I literally have a battery operated alarm clock, and then I have a window unit AC that I don't use during the day. I mean during the night. And then
Do you have plugs? Do you have plugs by the side of your bed?
yeah, I have plugs by the side of my bed. Well, maybe I didn't do it right, or I'm not recalling, because we literally went all over the house. So let's try it
That's
again.
the thing. Every home is different. Every home is unique. The way it's wired. Every person's reaction to this is unique and individual. So just like you go to the doctor and they run tests, they've got a pretty good instinct as to what might be wrong with somebody, but they run the tests so they can make an informed decision, diagnose correctly, and give you the right prescription for what you need to do, which is why it's so important to measure and make an informed decision.
Yeah. So okay, let me just see if there's any other questions. I have a very important question, which is, why is it that ground? So we got into this conversation because I have thyroid health issues, and so I bought a like a shielding piece of fabric that goes around my neck from a company to protect my thyroid, thinking that that would be helpful to me. And when I put it on my neck and I wore it, I actually discovered that I felt worse. And I actually felt more heat under my thyroid when I used it. And so Anthony and I were discussing that, and I was saying, why is that? Like, what is going on? And you had an answer that I'm not even going to try to segue into because I think that you'll just do a better job of explaining it than I will. But the question is, why doesn't that work? Why don't grounding pads work? And why do things like Faraday cages, or, maybe if you've been exploring EMFs, you've seen the nets that you can buy that will, put that you can put around your bed and all these different devices, or the buttons that go on your phone. Why are they not effective?
We didn't talk about the pen. A picture's worth 1,000 words. This isn't what we call the E pen. It comes with the body voltage kit. This pen is sensitive to EMF. It's not giving you a reading out about how strong that is, but as you get close to an electromagnetic field, it goes off. Now, the reason my iPad is putting out electromagnetic field is because I've got the power cord plugged in. Now, if I unplug the power cord,
You have to get much closer.
I've got no electromagnetic field. So I plug the power cord back in.
So when it blinks just that little bit, that's not it detecting anything.
So
That's
that says the red light and the noise tells me there's an electromagnetic field. So I'm sitting in an electromagnetic field right now that's coming off of my iPad because it's plugged into the mains and it's not grounded.
Got it.
Now I've got a grounding cord here, and I'm just going to hook that onto the plug here, back here. So now I'm still plugged into the mains, but I've grounded the circuit. So now there's no electromagnetic field coming off of my computer, even though it's plugged into the mains and the power cord is not grounded. By adding a ground cord, the field is following the path of least resistance. So it's not being broadcast and hitting me. It's now going through the ground cord that I just connected to the computer, and it's taking the field away from me. Now, to answer your question specifically, when you are in a field, in your bed, or sitting in your office chair, if you put your feet on a grounding pad, that meter will go down to 0. And people think, oh, well, the grounding pad is taking the field away. Well, it is, but you just made yourself part of the circuit. Instead of going through the meter that's plugged into the ground, now the field that I'm in is going through my feet, through the grounding pad, and not through the meter. So the meter goes to 0, but the field that I'm sitting in is exactly the same. But now, instead of going through the meter to ground, it's going through my feet to ground. If I put a meter on the grounding pad, now the resistance between the two, because this offers resistance, so the field is going to follow the path of least resistance. Well, now the resistance on the grounding pad is the same as resistance on, because it's got a meter on it here, but I am still sitting in exactly the same field. When you take a canopy, which we believe in, they're wonderful, and they're excellent for blocking radio frequency. If you've got a cell phone tower outside of your bedroom window, you want to shield that wall, or you want to sleep with a canopy. Now, the reason the canopy works is it's got metallic threads in it, and the metallic threads form a barrier to the radio frequencies. But the metallic threads attract the electric field in your room. So now you've reduced the radio frequency, but you could have increased the electric field that you're exposed to all night long 2 or 3 times. So to have a canopy around you at night without turning off the electric field in that room, you could actually be making your situation worse. And many people have tried grounding with a pad, and it makes them worse, just like you did with your thing. Because they're not reducing the amount of EMF that they're in. They just made themselves part of the circuit, and now it's flowing through them all night long, and they're actually increasing their exposure. And again, with a canopy, excellent for radio frequency. But without turning off the electric field in that room, you're actually increasing the electric field and can be making your exposure increase, not decrease. So you have to take into consideration the electric field as well as the magnetic field, as well as the radio frequency. And many solutions that professionals offer out there will deal with one form of electricity. A lot of those plugins that you put into the wall for dirty electricity, yes, they're going to reduce the amount of dirty electricity. They don't remove the electric field. They leave it completely in place. But because of the way they work, they actually increase the magnetic field. So if you've got one of those behind the chair or the sofa that you're sitting in, you've just increased the magnetic field, which is far worse for you than the dirty electricity was. So you've got to be holistic.
Okay, so I'm gonna just recap what you said because it was a little confusing for me and it's hard for me to wrap my head around it, but I've heard you say it several times.
This is very controversial. There are going to be people listening to this that are screaming because what I just said is very controversial.
Well, it's very controversial because it means that unless let me make sure I'm understanding. If I'm wearing that thing, but I'm still in a environment that has EMFs surrounding me from the walls. So it would potentially protect me from if I was just dealing with radio frequencies and I didn't have any electrical frequencies. But if I also have electrical frequencies, then it is actually attracting those and causing potentially more EMF radiation on the part of my body where I'm trying to protect it.
You're blocking the radio frequency, but you just put an antenna for the electric field around your neck. Now, our bodies are antennas. I don't know if anybody knows back in the day, televisions with bunny ears, you get a lousy signal, you go up, you touch the antenna, and all of a sudden you've got an amazing signal because our bodies act as antennas. And that's what's going on with radio frequency and electric fields. And our bodies also store electricity. They are actually a capacitor. And the amount of EMF, the amount of electricity that our bodies hold can accumulate throughout the day. And when you hold a meter and you connect yourself to the ground, you will see the meter just slowly drop as the battery dissipates to ground. So by putting that metallic thing around your neck, you are reducing the amount of radio frequency, which is very important. But because it's not grounded, if you are in an electric field, you've actually increased the amount of electric field that you are now exposing yourself to, which is just as bad as the radio frequency.
Which is, I will just tell you, that was exactly my experience. And I was so confused because I was like, I'm wearing this thing that's supposed to help, but it feels horrible. Like it actually felt bad. So when you explained that to me, it was like the biggest light bulb for me because finally I had an explanation for why that was. And I will also say that I have never used a grounding pad. My intuition was like, that's not the right thing. And now I understand because if you're going to use a grounding pad, just like with the Faraday cage, with the what did you call it? The canopy. Mm-hmm. What I'm understanding is as long as you don't have the electricity running through your walls, it's great as like a bonus addition to make things even better for you. However, if you are not killing the electricity in your walls, then you're actually just making things worse. And I think that that's the piece that most people are missing.
Yeah, well, let's say it can be making things worse because every situation is different. So let me address the whole grounding thing because again, some of your audience will be screaming right now. Grounding is wonderful. It is amazing. Anytime you can literally hug a tree, you are going to be grounding your battery. The capacitor, the electricity stored up in you is going to dissipate through the ground. Most of us are disconnected from the ground all the time. Even when you're walking outside on the ground, you're disconnected from the ground because the soles of your shoes are a synthetic material and they're stopping you from grounding. When you take your shoes off, you put your bare feet on the sand, walk on the beach, on the grass. Even concrete actually will dissipate you. Not asphalt. Asphalt, you can't ground on asphalt, but concrete, wooden deck, um, dirt, sand, especially wet sand, is amazing. I am very, very much in favor of grounding. If you can ground for a few minutes every morning at sunrise and sunset, you will notice a dramatic improvement in synchronizing your biorhythms and getting your body back into balance. It's a wonderful thing to do. What I just did sitting here was I grounded my computer. I did not ground me, because if I grounded me, I would become part of the circuit and the amount of EMF I was exposed to would increase. But by grounding the computer, I took the field away because now it's going through the grounding cord. So if you're sitting at your desk, ground the computer, ground the printer, ground the lamp, ground everything around you, so that the field that they have is going to ground and not radiating out at you. You do not ever want to sit on a grounding pad or put a grounding pad on your feet, because all you've done now, how many times have you seen birds sitting on a high powered cable? I mean, there's thousands of volts going through that cable. Why doesn't it kill the birds? Because they're not grounded. But if you climbed up the tower and you're holding on to the tower that's grounded and you reach out and touch that cord, you're a crispy critter. And the birds look at you, go, that was really stupid. But they're not grounded. So grounding can actually increase the amount of EMF that your body's exposed to if you don't take care of the circuits that are impacting you at the same time. Ground all your devices. Highly recommend it. Susie, you've got a grounding cord, and we're going to demonstrate how that works with your workstation
Yes.
I think in another video.
Let me see if I have any other questions before we get to the show and tell part of our video.
Okay.
Okay. So can you explain why the body voltage meter is the best one for determining your EMF exposure?
Yes, absolutely. So this meter Trifield, which I highly recommend everybody get because it measures radio frequency, magnetic fields, and electric fields. But if I turn this on, it's going to measure just the electric field in the room. If I reach out and touch the electric cord to my computer, that's me just sitting here. I'm holding the cord. When I touch the metal on the end of the cord,
wow.
But the reason this only goes down to 1 volt per meter. 1 volt per meter is 1,000 millivolts. We want to get down to 100 millivolts. So the body voltage kit is 1,000 times more sensitive.
Okay, got it. And where does that data come from again? Where it's the whatever that says you should sleep in a sanctuary under 100 millivolts?
Yeah, their lowest reading, their lowest setting is 10 millivolts. I found it, I've never ever been able to get anybody down to 10 millivolts. We can actually turn off a house, every circuit in the house, and have a higher reading than 10 millivolts just because of background radiation. If you've got 2 houses next to you, the fields are coming out of that house, and you can literally kill every circuit in your house and still get a reading above 10 millivolts. Now, if you live out in the boonies, away from other houses and things, okay, maybe you can get there. But the second reading is 10 volts, 10 millivolts to 100 millivolts. So if we can get below 100 millivolts in our modern world, we are really happy. And those readings come from the Building Biology Institute. You can Google them, and you've heard of building biologists. These are professionals who've gone through, gosh, I think it's 2, if not 3 years of training. They all have professional equipment. They will go out and measure not only the electric fields in your house. These are kind of house doctors. They'll come out and measure electric fields. They'll test for chemicals, all kinds of things in your home that can be negatively impacting your health. So if you've got a sick house or a sick office or a sick building, these are the guys that come out and measure and diagnose what the problem is, what the source of the problem is, and then give you a way to mitigate that situation. You know, they charge between Depends where you live and how much diagnosis they're doing, how many rooms, how big a house you've got, 300, 500, sometimes $1,000 to have them just come out and measure. And then you have to start mitigating, buying a canopy, buying a safe switch, painting the wall, or different methods of mitigation depending upon the situation. So you can call a professional, or if you're on a budget and you want to buy a meter, you can diagnose the situation yourself very accurately, because you can reduce 70 to 80% of the negative EMF that you're exposed to every day, the EMF that's negatively impacting your body. You can reduce your daily exposure by 70 to 80% just by turning off the circuits in your bedroom. For
And
most people,
yeah, where you sleep at night, because of the fact that it has that exponential impact while you're sleeping. That's what you mean, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And for most people, that solves the problem. I mean, they are moved so much closer to where they want to be. The symptoms, their body can, instead of deteriorating slowly, gradually, night by night, their body can start claiming back ground. The symptoms subside, and they start healing. And that manifests in a multitude of different ways depending upon what physical condition they have. Now, if you measure, you can just turn off the circuits and know that you've improved your situation. We don't recommend flipping breakers, because that is a safety feature of your home, and you don't want to compromise the integrity of the breaker by flipping it on and off every night, because then if you do have a power surge, if something does short circuit in your home, and that breaker doesn't work, it could cause a fire or electric shock. So flipping the breakers just to test to see if this is something that's going to work for you for a week is okay. You can get away with it for a few weeks, but please do not flip your breakers. If you get an arc fault, or there is a power surge and that breaker doesn't work, it could be a life-threatening situation. So the breakers are there for a reason. Do not compromise the integrity of the breakers. Which is another reason why we call it the EMF safe switch, not only to keep you safe from EMFs at night, but also it is a properly engineered, UL listed piece of equipment, and your house won't burn down, which is very rare, but it has happened because people have compromised the integrity of the breakers by flipping them on and off.
Yeah. And it's a good thing that you reached out to me, because I might have been the one, because this house has funky wiring and I should not be switching off the breakers at night. So I'm very excited to get a safe switch installed. So we're going to wrap up, but I just wanted to let people know that if you are interested in getting a body voltage meter so that you can test the EMF in your house.
So you can see Suzie's code there on your screen. So when you come to our website, and here's the address, liveemfsafe.com, liveemfsafe.com, use Suzie's code, which is right there on the screen, and you order a body voltage kit. That'll give you an additional 10% discount, and you can thank Suzie for that.
Yay! Okay, well, thank you so much, Anthony, for being with us today and sharing all your knowledge about this. I know it was, like I said, a huge light bulb for me, because there's definitely some myths out there in the EMF community that are being widely spread. And I also think that it's really important for anyone who is struggling with their sleep to know that in addition to, having a healthy light diet and having a consistent schedule, that this fixing the EMFs in your sleep sanctuary and creating an EMF mitigated sleep sanctuary is probably the one of the top things that you can do to help improve your sleep. And I'm so grateful for you sharing and teaching us about that.
You're very welcome, and I would concur with Suzie. This is just part of the puzzle, and your situation is probably very complicated, and there's many things that you can do. But for some people, it's a jigsaw puzzle. But for some people, the EMFs is a big piece, and they notice dramatic improvement. You still need to take care of your diet. and being consistent with your, your habits and things like that. But this is a piece, and for some people, it's a big piece.
Yeah, and I can just speak from personal experience. I kind of did it on a whim after I think doing an interview with Nick Pinot, and
Yeah,
him mentioning it to me, and so I just started doing it, and then maybe like, and I've been doing it consistently every night for a while now. And when I travel, I notice it's very difficult for me because I'm so sensitive now that when there's EMFs all around me, I have trouble sleeping. Um, but the
and that's
other,
another reason for the body voltage kit, because you can go to a restaurant and just the pen alone will tell you if you're sitting in a field, and if the pen goes off, you just say, "Excuse me, could I have a chair?" Because there's a plug right down by your feet. You can get a seat in the middle of the room, and you turn on the pen, and there's no EMF. So just having this in your purse, or guys, in your pocket, can allow you to reduce your EMF exposure during the day, in addition to the things that you've done for your sleep sanctuary at night.
one night I forgot to turn off the breaker, and I I slept, but I woke up the next day and I didn't feel rested, and I was like, oh, what's going on? And then I realized that I hadn't turned off my breaker, and it was a significant difference for me that I could tell even before I was aware that that was what was going on. So it's definitely not the be all end all for everyone. I think you put it perfectly that it's a jigsaw puzzle in terms of fixing sleep. And for a lot of people, I hear that changing the situation with the EMF exposure that they have was one of the big pieces to making things better.
Right.
And frequently has an immediate like you said, like the very next day they're like, oh, I noticed a big difference. So yeah.
And if you check out our website, there's lots of free information about setting up a home office, that you can use to, without any expense whatsoever, just by physically moving things away from you, that will help improve your situation. So yeah, make use of the resources that are there. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call.
You know what? I'm realizing we didn't talk about exactly what a safe switch is and how it's different than shutting off the breakers. Can you just say a little bit more about the distinction between that? I know you said you shouldn't do it because it's not safe, but what exactly is a safe switch as in comparison?
Yes, well, an EMF safe switch is an electrical device that has relays in it and the remote control. And each relay, you can put 1, 2, or 3 circuits through it. And so you pull the wires out of the breaker in the breaker box, the circuit you've identified. It goes through the safe switch and then back into the breaker box. So now you've put our relay in that circuit. And when you push the remote control, it cuts off that circuit at the breaker box. So there's no electricity flowing through that wire through the house. And you can see a picture of one of the EMF safe switches on the screen right now. And if you go to the website, we make them for one breaker, for one circuit, 3 circuits. Well, the relays, we have 1 relay, 2 relays, 4 relays, or 8 relays. And those will handle up to 24 circuits, depending upon the size that you get. And you can also include a whole house dirty electricity filter built into the switch, which will filter all of the dirty electricity, not only coming into your house from the grid, from your neighbors, but on every circuit in your home 24/7, not just the circuits you've picked out to cut off at night to create the sleep sanctuary. While you cut off those circuits, there's no dirty electricity on them anyway, but the dirty electricity filter is filtering the dirty electricity on all the other circuits throughout the house, and without creating any additional magnetic fields.
And there's a cost benefit to doing it that way as well. I've heard you say, because just installing like a dirty electricity filter is around the same price as the whole
Yeah,
kit and caboodle with you guys, right?
Yeah, if you have a pool pump or solar panels, or your neighbors do, or you've got a lot of switch mode power supplies in your home, the charging block that you have for your phone, and your laptop and all of your devices, those are switch mode power supplies. They create dirty electricity. So to buy a whole house heavy duty dirty electricity filter, which you need under in any of the circumstances I just mentioned, you're looking at about $1,600. Well, you can buy our whole house filter is $800. So for $1,600, the same price, you can not only get a whole house dirty electricity filter, but a cutoff switch, so you can create a you can turn 1, 2, or 3 bedrooms into a sleep sanctuary at the same time, have a whole house dirty electricity filter, all at the same price, if not less in some situations. So yeah, value for money. It's it's a good deal. So
Awesome. Wonderful. I have a feeling that there's more questions that people may have if you're listening to this. Like we didn't really go into details about what dirty electricity is, and I can just imagine that people have more questions. So if you do, you can always email me or you can email Anthony, and we will definitely respond to you and get all of your questions answered as well. So did you
yeah,
want to
go
say
to the
something?
website. There's some videos giving a lot of this information. If having gone through the videos and the FAQs, you still have questions, don't hesitate to call.
Wonderful. Awesome. So thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you everyone for being here and tuning in. And I hope you all have a wonderful day and a great sleep tonight too.
Absolutely.